And I remember my mother saying this to me, and it clearly left an impression because I remember it so many years later. She said princesses can be anything they want to be. You don't need saving, you can save your own ass, so get to it and do what you want. There are people in your life that you come across and meet who want to see you succeed so long as you're not succeeding more than them.
A lot of girls are taught to grow up quickly. You said it can cause a burden on your shoulders.
I'm a huge advocate of just going to therapy because you shouldn't just go in when you're like low. You should also go in when you're really happy. Really log into both sides of the feelings. It doesn't get talked about enough. It was only when I started coming out and telling people what had happened, because I'm never MIA from the internet, but I was for a while. When I started telling people is when I realized, oh my God, this happens a lot more frequently, they're a lot more common than I thought at least. And that's when I decided to talk about it on social media, and I said, you know what, I think I should put this out there because there could be somebody else who's going through a similar thing and is possibly feeling as lonely as I am. Because you can have the best support system and the best partner in the world, but that feeling is yours to keep, unfortunately.
Aanam, hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Mumbai's Millennial Mind.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
It's so funny because, you know, we've only just met like 5 seconds ago and I feel like there's already a good spark and a good energy. So I'm really excited to speak to you. For people who don't know who you are, tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Aanam. I go by Aanam C on the internet. I've been a content creator for almost 12 years now.
Wow.
I started while I was in college. And funny thing is, I used to freelance as a social media person, but this was my hobby. Somewhere along the journey, things flipped and this became my career, became my whole and soul.
Wow.
And I've been a full-time content creator for almost 12 years now, but over the last year and a half, I also launched my very own beauty brand.
Wow.
Yeah, that's who I am in a nutshell. I met my husband because of my job. I've made some great friends over the years, over the decade and then some. And it's been an interesting ride.
So when you said you were in college, what were you studying?
I was studying mass media. So I was one of
Wow.
those kids that decided, like right when I was in 7th or 8th grade, that this is the course I want to do.
Wow.
And I stuck with it and I was like, that's it, that's what I want to do. I know I belong in mass media in some way.
Yeah, and then you started social media. What were you doing when you said you were doing it as a hobby?
So, blogger at that point of time wasn't really a thing in India at all.
Right.
There weren't really very many blogs in general. So I used to manage social media for other brands while I was still in college, because I was one of those kids that I started working really early. I started working at 15, 16, which is really easy, which is really easy for India standards especially.
Right.
Because you don't see very many kids who, for lack of any other way of putting it, who are privileged and who don't need to work. Who wanted to work. I came from a fairly comfortable family. I didn't need to, but I was always one of those people who wanted to earn my own coin, wanted to do my own thing. I did several odd jobs across 4 years of college, and somewhere along the line I realized that content and social media is something I was gravitating towards so much.
Right.
So local restaurants, brands, designers who now, you know, showcase at Fashion Week. It's so strange because I've managed social media for them, and now I work with them in the capacity of, you know, a content creator on this side. So I would do stuff like that for them. And then there was a student lifestyle platform called Cool Age.
Okay.
Which was recruiting, I think it was 1 or 2 writers from every college for this student lifestyle platform, and they got me on board to kind of, you know, be one of their writers. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I really love long form copy as much as I do shorter snippets on social media. There was no Instagram at the time. It was Facebook, there was Twitter. And for my food clients, my F&B clients, your local apps where you order in from was a really big deal, because, you know, how you describe things over there, etc. is really important. So one thing kind of led to another. A friend of mine who didn't live in India actually at the time said, you write so beautifully for this other platform, and I would have a lot of fashion and beauty ideas that they wouldn't pick up, because it was a student lifestyle based platform.
Right.
And I was once venting to him about, I have so many things I want to write, but they don't approve those ideas because it needs to be very lifestyle oriented from a student lens.
Got it.
And he was like, hey, you can kind of do this on your own. There's this thing that, is done globally. It's called blogging. And I remember Googling how to start a blog or what is a blog. And then, as they say, the rest is pretty much history.
How did you have the kind of confidence to do that? Because like you said, back then it wasn't really a thing, right? Even now with podcasting, a lot of people say to me, how come you quit your corporate job to do it? And I'm like, well, there's a blueprint out there. It's a little bit easier for me. There's not that many Indian creators that I know that are doing a podcast and kind of want to go in the direction I want to go to. But there's a lot of people who have a podcast that are going to then hopefully one day, turn it into a show and then turn it into something else. And I think there is kind of a blueprint. There wasn't for you, right?
There really truly wasn't, because I remember having to look up famous bloggers at the time, and the only names that popped up were like Man Repeller.
Right.
From this is back in the day. I'm talking about 2011.
Okay.
Right. There was Brian Boy, and there were very few names. There was no names in India. The only name I could think of was Miss Malini, who was really big and had probably at that point of time started to turn her blog into a more corporate structure. And I said, hey, so it is something that's doable in the Indian space, but there aren't very many people doing it. But I will admit it wasn't a strategy from a career lens.
Right.
It was more of a let's do this as a hobby and see where this goes. And from a monetizing side of it, I honestly didn't consider that at all. There was no blueprint. I didn't know I could make money out of it. I remember one of my initial collaborations was, hey, we'll send you 2 lipsticks and can you do a blog post on us? And I jumped with joy because I was like, they're going to send me lipsticks to talk about them? Hell yeah!
Of course. Free stuff, and I spoke about this earlier, free stuff at the beginning is so fun. Even free stuff now, I'm still so grateful for it. They don't pay your bills, obviously, right? Like free stuff doesn't pay your bills, but I'm still very grateful for everything that I get. How did you take the leap then if you weren't monetizing straight away?
Well, so because I was freelancing as a social media executive for the number of brands that I was, and I was still in college, so I didn't have any financial pressure per se, right?
Got it.
I had stopped taking money from my parents, pocket money from my parents a couple of years ago. I was comfortable on my own because I want to say I had about 7 or 8 clients at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was comfortable by myself because I had this roster of clients that I was already creating content for.
Wow.
So I could encourage myself, I could indulge myself a little bit on the side of, hey, I can do this as a hobby.
Got it.
Somewhere along, I guess it flipped because brands started noticing, work picked up, and then I kind of had to prioritize, okay, where do I dedicate my time? What do I prioritize? And the blog took priority. I mean, a couple of years in, and now I don't have any time to be a freelancer or consultant or anything like that, but I loved that too. It taught me so much.
There's a lot of taboo, isn't there, when women dress a certain way, put makeup on a certain way, that we're too much, right? And men won't like you if you're too much. Did you ever face any of that?
Did I face it before meeting my husband? Yes, I did.
Really?
Yes, I did.
In what way?
Because I feel like there are people in your life that you come across and meet who want to see you succeed so long as you're not succeeding more than them. I will admit I've been in that phase and I've been in a relationship like that before. But to me, I think when I met my husband, I was already a creator. I was already doing what I was doing. In fact, I had stopped freelancing as a consultant right at the time, but his company at the time where he used to work, they wanted to bring me on board for a project. To kind of spearhead this specific fashion pitch that they had going out, and I said, yeah, I'm so glad I did. I think by the time I met him, I was already in this phase where I knew what I was doing. B, and I'm not saying this out of love or bias, and if you meet him, you'll probably attest, he's one of the most chilled out, I don't care kind of men.
Yeah.
And I think if he wasn't, I don't think I would have landed up with him.
Yeah.
Because I've always been, I come from the upbringing of so long as you know what you're doing and what you're doing is right, you do you.
Really?
I came from one of those families, although I come from a level medium Orthodox Muslim family. My mom always said to me, you do what you want to do. So long as you know you're in the right, you're good. So long as you're feeling good about what you're doing, you're not, there's nothing to come back home feeling guilty about or something that you need to hide. You're fine. So I have always had a very open relationship with my parents. They knew if I was out on a date. They knew if I was seeing someone. They knew if they obviously see what I'm wearing if I'm wearing.
Yeah.
They gave me no pressure to get married. They gave me no pressure. They've never given me any pressure of any kind. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's so unusual. I don't really hear that much. I mean, during this series, I've heard that from a lot of people. But in the UK, I don't really hear of anyone not giving pressure to get married.
Oh, I had zero pressure, to the extent of which I was 24 when my then boyfriend proposed to me,
right.
Now husband, and we're 11 years apart. So
wow.
We're 11 years apart. And I remember my mom and my dad saying, okay, great, you're engaged. Take your time, stay engaged for 5 years if you want to. And it wasn't just for me, it was also for my older brother. I have an older brother who he is about 4 years older than me. He met his wife very early on. They got engaged when he was 18, I want to say. And it was him who was like, I'm proposing to her. I'm done, I'm locking this down. And my parents were like, chill, why are you in a hurry? So they stayed engaged for 3 years.
Wow.
And then they got married. So my parents are the most like chilled out parents I could have asked for, honestly.
He's 11 years older than you?
Yes, Gerard is 11 years older than me.
How is there a difference? Do you feel it?
No, there isn't. Some days I think I'm the older one.
No way.
So there's this funny story my mom always reminds me when this age topic comes up. I was 15 or 16 when I said to her that, Mom, I'm going to marry someone who's 10 to 15 years older than me, because guys my age were always just guys my age.
Yes.
And I've always been told, without sounding like I'm tooting my own horn, but I've always been told that I was very mature beyond my years.
Yeah.
And when you are mature beyond your years, while it's great in general, you can struggle a lot, whether it's with your friend circle, whether it's with trying to find a partner, whether it's with it also brings a certain amount of weight that you carry on your shoulders that you don't realize for a very long time. And I think that she jokes about it, but I did land up marrying someone who is 11 years older than me. And I'm glad I did, because I was never looking for a boy when I was looking for someone. You know what I mean? And it was when I did have a really bad heartbreak. I think I was about 21 at the time. And I said, this is it, I'm done. I'm not interested anymore. And I closed I pulled the curtains, I brought the wall up, you can call it whatever you want to. And then I was still very much on my guard when I accidentally met him. And he would have been my first attempt at casual dating. Landed up marrying the first guy I attempted to go on a casual date with. So yeah.
So funny. You touched upon a really important point. You said, as a girl who is years above her maturity, which I think a lot of women are, by the way, because I was told that, a lot of my friends are told that. So I think a lot of girls are, especially if you're the oldest or you're the only girl in the family, you are kind of taught to grow up quickly. You said it can cause a burden on your shoulders, which you don't often realize, and it can have impacts on your friends or your relationships. What impact did that have on you, and when did you realize the kind of burden on your shoulders?
So the funny thing is, neither am I the only girl around, nor am I the older one.
Wow.
I'm the younger sibling.
How interesting.
Of just the two of us.
Okay.
So I don't think I can credit or discredit it to that factor, but I just think I've always been a very patient person or a very patient listener. And when you are that person, I think you tend to really you don't just hear what someone else is saying, you truly listen in on what that person's feeling. I don't think I have a specific moment I can pinpoint as to when I realized, oh, I'm carrying a certain amount of weight. But when I did go to my first few sessions of therapy in 2018, after a massive emotionally low phase, I think I realized that I was carrying a lot more weight than I realized I was.
What was the low phase? If you want to talk about it.
No, I live life like an open book. I had a really bad, they say heartbreaks screw you up.
Yes.
But what people don't talk about enough is that friendship heartbreaks screw you up in a special kind of way. Can I say screw you up?
Yeah, you can swear.
I think friendship heartbreaks screw you up a lot further than what we talk about normally.
Wow.
Because every time you think heartbreak, you think romance, right? And you think partner and that kind of stuff. So I went through one of those phases that was going on for a couple of years, and I think in 2018, I think the climax just kind of got to me, and that's when I really started going to therapy, and I realized that I was feeling a lot lighter than I had ever felt. Yeah.
Is therapy a taboo here, or do people talk about it a lot?
Oh yeah.
They talk about it a lot?
Oh
it's
my
a taboo?
God. No. People talk about it.
Okay.
And I find that it's been one of the best tools I've had, and I'm really grateful to have been able to have, to heal the way I've healed and to come out of situations. I'm a huge advocate of just going to therapy, because I often say you shouldn't just go in when you're like low.
Yeah.
You should also go in when you're really happy. So you really log into both sides of the feelings. It's helped me come a long way. I can say this for myself, and very close people in my life have told me this over the years as well, that I've become a lot. I've always been a calm person,
Right.
but that inner restlessness that you sometimes can't tie down. I feel like it's gone, or
Why?
maybe going. I shouldn't say gone. I shouldn't jinx it.
What's been one of the learnings you've applied?
I've learned to be kinder to myself. I think I'm someone who's always been very hard on myself.
Wow.
I was actually recording a podcast episode recently where someone said to me that they learned it came from being a good student. Being academically well sets you up to think you'll always do well. I thought that was a great insight. So yeah, I think that somewhere set me up to think that, okay, I got everything, and I don't got everything. So I've learned to be kinder to myself.
Growing as a content creator, especially in the last few years, has been so popularized, right? Everybody wants to be a content creator because they think it's really easy. Did you find it easy?
Well, I didn't know what I was doing for the first half. I'd like to, so I don't think it was easy, because there was no blueprint, there wasn't a map. There also weren't, I feel like people that come in now have set goals and expectations, and you can come in with, level 10 production value, which I think is a pro and a con, because I feel like you're also coming into a market that's a lot more prepared, that's a lot more, they know what they want to see. It's also a lot more competitive in a way, I guess, especially when it comes to the commercial side, the business side of things. Whereas I feel like I had the privilege of making the mistakes I made, and I got away with it because there weren't set expectations.
So true.
Now when I see newer creators, and I'm a huge advocate for people becoming creators, because I feel like it is one of the most beautiful professions to be in, because you really get to be yourself. You choose what you want to be every single day, what you want to talk about, what you want to use your platform for. It's a very unique space, right? And I feel like they come in with set goals, whether, hey, I have this award on my vision board and I want to be at these many followers and subscribers by this much time. But then you're also adding pressure on yourself. So I feel like there are things that are easier about it today, but there are things that are so much tougher about it today as well. Because now you're walking into a full-fledged industry. You're not walking into a space that's meant for creativity and secret sharing about, hey, I used to shop here and this is how I wear my makeup. Now it's about, hey, your video was great, but you know what, your lighting was off. People love to comment and tell people how to do what. So I don't think it's as easy, and I think the level of difficulty or competition and toughness is quite underrated.
No, definitely. Have you found it really hard to kind of manage through those tough opinions? How many followers are you on at the moment?
I have not found it tough, because I'm somebody who has, when you've lived on the internet for 12 years and been there since before Instagram and before podcasts and things like that, you've really seen it all.
Of
you know
course.
what I mean? So I don't personally find it tough, because I feel like over the years I've really developed thick skin. Do I have my moments? Yeah, I'm not gonna discount that. But I do think that I have thick skin, and I also want to say that I have a very particularly loving community. I don't get a lot of hate. I'm very grateful for that. I don't get a lot of hate.
Wow.
In fact, sometimes when I look at what the kind of comments my peers get and things like that, I'm like, oh my God, I'm probably even more careful of what I say and do, because I realized that there is a lot of hate out there on the internet. So I don't want to attract that into my life at all.
So then, are you being authentic?
I'm very unfiltered. If you
Really?
watch any of my vlogs,
Yeah.
I am so unfiltered. I will get calls from my mum saying, did you really have to sit there in your night suit pajamas with no makeup and no bra and be talking about these things? I'm like, yeah, because who the hell wants to be fully groomed at night at 11:30 before going to bed?
So true.
I'm very authentic, but I'm obviously careful about the words I use.
Obviously.
As I am offline as well. So it's not like I would just do that online. I feel like, being woke, and I use, air quotes because it's become a trend and people think you're only doing it while you're online. But I feel like it needs to be who you are, and we need to be more careful and more sensitive towards everyone. So if I'm trying to do that online, I'm also very much doing that offline in my own life.
Are there certain things you don't want to share online?
Well, I share pretty much everything online. The only thing I probably don't deep dive into online is religion, because I feel like that tends to polarize Indians in a whole new way.
Okay.
I talk about my politics online. I talk about the struggles of, being a woman breadwinner of the family online. We've talked about, my husband and I have both talked about joint decisions that we've made. Like, for example, he quit his 21-year-long advertising career in 2019 to join me, and he works with me full time now.
No way.
And the internet loves to share their opinions on these things.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of that, but we've honestly lived our lives like an open book. Like I've talked about my experience with experimenting with fillers. I've talked about I talk about my politics. Like I said, I'm quite
Yes.
open about it. I've talked about not wanting to have kids to wanting to have kids. I pretty much talk about everything because I feel like, why have that filter?
A lot of people hide that they've had plastic surgery or had fillers or Botox or anything like that. Why didn't you?
Well, each to their own. I feel like if it's a genuine insecurity you have that you're
Right.
trying to compensate for, then that's probably not something you will be comfortable talking about. For me, while it was an insecurity, I also felt like, wait, I feel like I'm almost cheating my audience if I don't tell them what I did, because I like to share all my beauty experiments. So I like to talk about it. I don't hold anything against anyone who chooses not to. I do wish they did.
Yes.
But I'd like to think that I'm sure they have their own point of view on it. But like I said, for me, I'm like this big fat open book, and I'm happy to talk about pretty much everything.
I really love the way you shared that, because there are a lot of people online and in person who are very fearful about sharing that they've had any Botox or fillers, and also very proud about it, like I've never had anything done, and there's this whole narrative. But it's interesting because I think that there's nothing wrong with it. It's like saying, it's like saying some people who don't wear makeup and they go on and on and on about the fact that they don't wear makeup. I'm like, congratulations. Honestly, amazing for you that you don't wear makeup. You deserve an award, but I do, and I'm okay with wearing makeup.
But that's the thing. I kind of look at fillers like makeup.
Yeah, they are.
It does come off in 6 months unless you're maintaining it.
But even if you do own it, who cares?
But so here's where I kind of have, this is where my empathy kicks in.
Go on.
For those of them who don't want to talk about it. Let's
Right.
assume that I have really bad skin, or I used to have really, really deep set. I mean, I still have a super deep set, but I really used to have really bad dark circles.
Okay.
Okay. And a few years ago, I tried under eye fillers, which I didn't maintain and keep up. So I don't have them anymore, but I did.
Okay.
Let's assume I didn't tell the world that, hey, I got these, because they're my insecurity and I don't want to talk about them. So I feel like if something highlights your own insecurity, because you're like, hey, I got this, and you don't want to feel insecure about it, so you won't bring it up at all. And then in that case, you're kind of backed up in a corner where if someone asks you, you're so insecure about it, where if someone asks you, you lie, because then it'll become a point of conversation.
I get that.
So somewhere I have empathy for the people that don't talk about it truly, if it's out of, a genuine insecurity that they have. If you're doing it out of vanity, just talk about it. it. Yeah,
That's
that would
true.
be great. I'm doing it out of vanity, so I'm talking about it.
That's so true. It's like Kylie Jenner when she said that she didn't get her lips done, but she was genuinely insecure about it.
Or Kim Kardashian. I think she was asked point blank when they went to the Met Gala last year, and she was asked what she did. The time she talked about having lost a certain number of kilos, and she said it was not eating. Come on, you obviously did what you did. I mean, at least allegedly, we should say. But I love when Khloe Kardashian said it in one of their season finales before they started the new show, and she said, we all go to the same doctor. So just throw it in there. Nobody is, I mean, yeah, sure, the world is getting into the details if you're a car Jenner.
Yeah.
But just, yeah, it would be nice to normalize it.
I think so. I think people still don't normalize it, and people are very judgmental about it as well. And I think you should look at it as makeup. Look, we all want to feel good. We all want to feel our best. And if you want to get work done, then get work done. And if you don't want to get work done, then that's fine. I think we need to remove ourselves from this, oh, I don't wear makeup, oh, I'm so natural, oh, I'm, beauty is like in one way. I think that's completely untrue.
That's also because I think everyone has their own set beauty standard. Like when you look at, I'm like, let's look at actors or influencers on social media like you and I. People love to tell us when, oh my God, like I get this, for example, oh my God, your lips look so great, because I did have my lip fillers done recently. They look so much better now. And in my head, I'm like, wait, now this means that I should keep it going. But then what if I change my mind? These comments will come and haunt me in a different way. You know what I mean? So I feel like if we normalize it, it'll take judgment away from it. You kind of take power away from that lens.
So true.
And I just think it's a great thing to share.
I agree. I love that. You talked about sharing the fact that you and your husband didn't want to have children, but then you now do. Talk me through that journey. What age were you when you got married? 24?
25.
25, and your husband was 36. Okay, so you decided at that point you didn't want to have children, or you spoke about it before?
I decided way before.
Oh, wow.
I think what's really strange is I've always been a very baby person.
Okay.
I'm the person all my friends and cousins will leave their kids with to really take care of them.
Okay.
And I can do everything for a kid, from like changing the nappy to feeding them to burping them. And I've been like this since my early teens. Or even earlier, to be honest.
Okay.
My brother, the older brother that I mentioned some time ago, also has 2 kids who I used to live with. Obviously, we used to live together before I got married and moved out.
Right.
As is normal with all Indian families, where it's one big family that lives under a roof, right? So I've pretty much helped to whatever extent I could, my brother, sister-in-law, and all of us, to kind of raise the 2 kids. He's a son and a daughter. So I've always been a very baby person. Somewhere in my late teens, I think I decided I don't want to have kids, because I had this whole idea, and I still do have that idea. So it's not like I'm not changing facts on it. I do think that for the environment, it would be a lot better if we could bring down that population somehow. It would be great. So it's not like I'm changing the fact that was the ideology I went in with.
Right.
And that was a big filter also when I met my husband, and I was like, I don't want to have kids. And he was like, your body, your choice. Sure, we're very pro-adoption.
Wow.
So how did it change? I want to say the pandemic started to change my mind. I've always been a very family first person, always. Like every one of my friends who's known me since childhood, or if they've known me for a year, they know that if I have to pick between a friend's night out or a family night in even, I will choose the family night.
Yes.
Anytime, any day. I just think that the pandemic kind of changed my mind in a way where I thought that it would be nice to have a kid. There were many different filters. Again, I can't specifically pinpoint to a moment per se, but I thought it would just be nice. Probably, I think it was to see a mini me. I don't know. I do still stand by the fact that wanting to have kids, especially when you take the environment into consideration, is a selfish act. I'm not going to take away from that.
Yeah.
But I did somehow change my mind. And I remember telling my husband this for the first time, and he was like, I still stand by it. You're absolutely your choice.
Wow.
He's one of those people who likes the fact that I'm in charge.
Okay.
So he's like, it's your body. You decide. You want to adopt, we adopt. You want to have a kid, we'll have a kid. And I think somewhere along my mind changed, and I said, you know what? I think I'd like to see a mini me or a mini him at some point. And we got pregnant a couple of months ago. And I actually had a miscarriage exactly 3 weeks ago from today. So again, it's something I've talked about because I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough. It was only when I started coming out and telling people what had happened, because I'm never MIA from the internet, but I was for a while, and I had a lot of followers who were checking in on me, whether it was through DMs, comments. I have a little closed group with them on chat for the people who I've known for a really long time through the internet. And when I started telling people is when I realized, oh my God, this happens a lot more frequently. Miscarriages are a lot more common than I thought, at least. And that's when I decided to talk about it on social media, and I said, you know what, I think I should put this out there because there could be somebody else who's going through a similar thing and is possibly feeling as lonely as I am. Because you can have the best support system and the best partner in the world, but that feeling is yours to keep, unfortunately.
I've spoken to a lot of women who have kind of gone through it as well, and they've all said the same thing. People only realize after they've been through it and after they've shared that there are so many women that go through it. I think miscarriages in 1 in 4 women. How did you, it's so raw at the moment, how did you kind of jump and talk about it?
There were 2 people in my life who I'm very close to. Very, very close to. So you kind of assume you know what's going on in these people's lives because they're so close to you. And both of them opened up and told me about their miscarriages for the first time.
Wow.
And I was very shocked because it's one of those things where you think you know this person because you've been close to them for as long as 20 years. And I think that shook me up a bit. And I said, if I didn't know this detail about you, I feel like I need to share because then there's all the more reason to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad I shared it while it was raw and while it was fresh because I got so many unique perspectives.
Really? Like what?
Women sharing their stories, women telling me about their miscarriages, women telling me about how they went on to have healthy babies after the miscarriage, and women telling me about how they're still trying to conceive after the miscarriages. I feel like it opened up a very, you never think something like this, like you never anticipate for bad things to happen to you or to anybody, right?
Of course.
When I found out I was pregnant, I was thrilled, I was jumping with joy. So when it doesn't even cross your mind that this could potentially happen to you. So you never think that this is going to be a lived experience you're going to share. But the fact that I was asked just earlier today what my favorite thing about being a woman is, and I said that it was the sisterhood. It's that somebody you don't know, you've never met.
Yeah.
Can comfort you in ways that
No.
can just comfort you in ways that you didn't know, that you needed and that you wanted, and it is what it is. Oh God, I need tissues.
Of course. I brought some out early. Oh, they're just there. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's still fresh and it's part of my journey, you know, that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people hide it because they feel like it's almost something you shouldn't talk about or something that will scare other women.
Right.
That is also an angle that I got. But I feel like just living your truth is the only way to be. I don't know any other way of doing it.
That's so lovely. I'm sure by you sharing that you helped a lot of women as well, because what you've just said is around sisterhood, and I think people are scared to share. People are scared to talk around, you know, I do this and I do that. And throughout this podcast, you've been very open about one thing. The fact that you are the breadwinner, the fact that your husband is working with you, the fact that, you know, you're very strong. Has that ever kind of gone against you? Because I'm so worried that people, okay, I'll tell you why I asked that question. Growing up, I've never been someone who wants to be different, I guess, from my brother, or I grew up with 3 boys. And I remember when I used to say, you know, why can't the boys help? Someone would say, you're going to treat your husband like that. And I was like, what? And I was always played as this villain. You know, if I stood my ground, I was a villain. if I am strong, then I am too masculine. I should be more feminine, and you know, I shouldn't be so dominant. I shouldn't be so overbearing. And I think I've heard this a lot with women who are very strong and dominant and powerful, that, God, I feel so sorry for her husband, you know?
I've been there. It's not
Right.
like I haven't.
Right.
I mean, I remember this one random comment I think some relative made when I couldn't make rotis as a teenager, saying, you know, sasural jayegi to kya karegi, which is when
Yes.
you go to the husband's house, what are you going to do there? But you know, the thing is, it has a lot to do with, I think, your parents. I come from a household where my parents just let me be me unabashedly. There never has been a difference in the way they treated my brother and I.
Wow.
I was allowed to do the same things he was. In fact, my brother is the more traditional one between the two. So I think I got away with a lot more than he did. But I think that has a lot to do with what you're told or how you're raised. Like, okay, so I remember this instance when I think I was in the 7th or 8th grade. And I remember saying to my mum, maybe I was in the 7th or 8th grade, maybe I was in the 4th or 5th standard, because I said to her that I can't be a princess because, you know, I was actually strangely even deeper. I think over the years, my skin has opened up a bit with no conscious effort whatsoever.
Wow.
But I used to be a much more duskier child if you look back at my photos. And she, and I said, because I'm so dusky, princesses are supposed, and I had short hair. So I was like, princesses are supposed to have long hair and be fair and be delicate. And while I was delicate and skinny as hell, I used to get called a toothpick all the time. My body journey is a whole other conversation. I was also the kid in school when there was a lizard coming into the class or a cockroach or a cat. I was the one who would go usher it out because I've never really been scared of those things.
Wow.
So I remember saying to my mom, I'm a lot tougher than, you know, my friends, my peers at the time. And I remember my mother saying this to me, and it clearly left an impression because I remember it so many years later. She said, princesses can be anything they want to be. You don't need saving. You can save your own ass, so get to it and do what you want.
Wow.
And I think that's also why somewhere I give everything I am the credit to my mom. I really do credit her for everything because she truly just let me be.
Yeah.
She truly just let me be. I was disciplined in the sense that maybe because I was given so much freedom, I never found the need to act out.
Yes.
Because I was a hard worker. I've always enjoyed academics. I started working very early and I always wanted to prove myself. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. But I never consciously wanted to be different or be the same, or that was never the end goal.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be me and do things that made me happy. Even when I started blogging, and again, this is 2011, so they didn't really know what blogging was.
Yeah.
My mom just thought it was, she takes pictures and posts them on Facebook. Okay, cool, you do you, you know. I think she realized the legitimacy of my job when there was an episode that Channel V did on my life. They were doing episodes on, you know, people in unique careers. And they followed me around for 24 hours and made an episode on my life. And I think that's when she realized, oh wait, like she's legit in whatever she's doing. I don't get it, but okay, it's a legit job.
Being an influencer it comes with so many strengths, but also it comes with so many people saying it's not a real job, it's not, you know, professional, it's not that difficult, all of this stuff. You touched upon something around your body, and you said that's a journey in itself. My body has changed in the last 7 months because I have been a little bit more stressed. I'm running around a lot more, and I'm not complaining. I'm someone who's definitely has ADHD anyway, and so I'm running from like one place to another. And my cousin the other day said I was like a pixie. She said 1 minute you're here and the next minute you're there. She's like, you're like running all around. She was like, this is why you're so skinny. And I've noticed a significant change in my body where I've lost a lot of weight in the last 8 months, not consciously, by genuinely just working a bit much. But I'm okay with it because I think, you know, it's fine. You know, you have periods in your life where you're going to be optimum performance and some where you're not. But a lot of people feel the need to comment. Now, generally I don't get a lot of hate either, apart from on TikTok, which is, thank God, is banned in India because people are honestly like on TikTok, okay? You can't post anything on there without someone being a lunatic. But people comment a lot around body, around the way I look and all of this stuff, but I'm putting myself out there, so of course they're going to. talk to me about your journey with your body and sharing that on social media.
So, up until the age of 24-ish, maybe 23-ish, I'm a little confused on the exact timeline. I was really skinny. When I tell you I was really skinny, I was 40 kilos.
Huh?
Yeah. I was 40 kilos. I wasn't even, like, I was what you call size 0. I was literally there.
No, that's like 0, 0, 0.
Yeah, I was something like that. I was really, really skinny. And then, truth be told, I don't know what happened, but I started gaining weight. I joke and say this when someone asks, you know, because sometimes people are like, what happened to you? And I'm like, okay, first off, thanks.
Yeah, okay, rude.
But I've always been a very unhealthy eater all my life. And the thing is, it didn't show for those many years. And I joke and say that there was this rubber band that is just, now it's broken. So now everything I eat shows. Unfortunately, I still have a fairly unhealthy diet. I try to balance things out as I touch 30, but it's a process. And then the pandemic wasn't helpful to me either. I mean, in a way, of course, I feel like I should be grateful because there was much worse stuff going on all around the world. I was lucky to be able to be sitting home and gaining weight, if you look at it like that, you know what I mean? But I did gain a lot of weight in the lockdown, and when I say a lot of weight, I mean, I think I gained like 20 something kilos, which is a lot, obviously. And again, I feel like because you're married and because you're gaining weight and because I became like paunchy, I started getting a lot of comments about, are you pregnant? In that same phase and in that same year, I lost 2 people who were very, very close to me. And I've realized I'm a little bit of a stress eater.
Okay.
Which did me no favors.
Right.
So I've gone from being a 0, or as you said, 000, to like a size 12. And my audience has seen that change. So while the older audience knows and sees that, you know, hey, she's just gained weight, let her be.
Yes.
There is the newer audience that'll be like, oh wait, are you pregnant? Or oh wait, are you this? And the thing is, those comments weren't triggering for me per se. It's in the last 3 weeks that I've now started finding them triggering. And I'm like, okay, wait, now I'm not in the headspace for it. So I don't want to see this. I don't, you know, I don't know how to deal with it now. And for the first time, I'm probably in a situation where I'm like, oh my God, is something affecting me because of my job? So I'm taking a few steps back and saying, okay, let's recalibrate and figure out how I can stay away from this situation.
This is why it's so important not to ask, are you pregnant? Are you having a child? Do you want another one? Why are you not, just don't ask these questions. When are you getting married? Are you having a child? When's your next one coming? Aren't they going to be lonely? Don't you feel upset? Don't you want more children? Just don't ask the question.
And not just online. Don't ask it offline either.
Of course.
Like, just don't ask. So when I'm at weddings and I see somebody asking someone else, and this is a relative of mine who's asking someone else, oh really, it's okay, you guys have been, so when are you getting married? And I'm like, no. You don't have to answer that. You shouldn't have asked that. And I exit myself from that situation because I'm like, this is not okay. We need to be at a point in time when, and the funny thing is, they only ask the women.
It's so annoying.
Nobody ever goes up to the guy and says, so when are you getting married? How are you going to balance work and having a child? And I just think that we get so much unsolicited advice and so much unsolicited questioning, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you also have to be able to take a stand and say, this is where I'm drawing my boundary.
Right.
And it's important for more women to be drawing those boundaries, because otherwise you just kind of, you get egged on in whatever direction they want you egged on in.
It's so true, because the thing is you never know what someone's going through. And like you said, you're really strong and you've been able to block out those comments. And prior to these 3 weeks, those comments didn't bug you. So someone could say, you know, oh, they did?
I mean, they did from the point of view, like, get over it.
Yes.
I'm paunchy. Big deal.
But not in the point of like, you know, it's really upsetting you.
No, it didn't upset me, but you know, it would upset anybody else.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But that's my point, right? Like, people have thought, okay, well, you're strong, it's not going to upset you that much, right? Like, these comments, we've been saying them for years. It's not going to, like, you know, make you lose sleep. But how are people meant to know if you didn't share about your miscarriage? Let's just say you didn't share.
Yeah.
How are people meant to know? They're not. And the point is that you just shouldn't say it in the first place, because you don't know what circumstances have changed for that person. You don't know what's happened in their life that one day something wasn't upsetting them and now it is.
Yeah.
So just avoid it in the first place.
100%.
You can't ask someone constantly every single minute, you know, has this happened to you? Has this happened to you? Like, you don't know what the future is going to hold for that person.
I think some of this also just comes from the point of view of, as Indians, we love to get up in everybody's businesses. I'm sure it happens the world over.
It's true.
But especially here, we love to tell people, and women especially, what to do, when to get married. This is your advice. Like I have female friends
Right.
from school who are still not married, not
Right.
in serious relationships. And then sometimes they'll talk about things and be like, oh, you're the last one left. Tera number kab aayega? You know, when's your turn? And I'm like, you know what? If there's any advice I'm actually going to give you, freeze your eggs. That's all I'm going to say. Whether you choose to use those eggs, not use those eggs, your call.
Right.
Just get that done and out of the way. And whatever pressure everyone else is putting on you is now their problem. You know, I say this very often in real life. I say, this is a you problem. This isn't a me problem. So this is a you problem.
How are you okay with saying that? Because I think a lot of people who are watching and listening to this are probably thinking, you're so strong. But you know, when I speak like that, I love that phrase, by the way. I'm like, that's a you problem. But people see me as sometimes cold. If I assert a boundary, it's not favored upon.
But that's because people, so it's the most modern and the most liberal people, you will find the filter in over there, because the minute they see a woman setting that boundary, it's not a general anyone setting boundary thing. It's a woman setting boundary thing. Unless we train these people in our lives to think and say that, hey, it is what it is. Again, it's a you problem.
Yeah.
You have to be able to train it that way. Like, for example, did I hear more aggressive comments when I was younger? Sure. At some point, like I said about the roti comment that I mentioned earlier. But I feel like as the new generation, which we were, I guess, in our teens, not now when I'm in my 30s, but it is also our responsibility somewhere to tell and train and educate the older lot on what's
So
okay and
true.
what's not okay. Because if you don't tell them, how will they know? Today, I have a 10-year-old nephew, and he uses terms that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are using, which are like really cool and really cute, but I can't keep up. So
Yeah.
unless you tell me, how am I going to be clued into what's okay and what the new normal is? Somewhere we also need to be able to say, hey, listen, this was great at your time. Tumhare
Right.
zamane mein chalta tha, it worked at your time. It doesn't work now. You can't go around asking people, you've been married for 6 years, why don't you have a kid? It's not okay to say that.
So true.
They could be struggling. They could have chosen to be child-free. She could have had a miscarriage. It could be anything. So we also need to train them to think differently.
So you've now created a brand for yourself, haven't you?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, my brand is my baby, as I say. My second baby, because the first one's the blog.
Right.
I took 4 years to be able to launch Verified.
Wow.
Because I started ideating on it and conceptualizing what I wanted it to be in 2017.
Okay.
And it is a self-funded bootstrap brand. So I knew I wanted to save capital and kind of do this on my own.
Right.
It was the vision behind wanting to have a brand like Verified was that as someone who would have to mix several different products to find a shade that worked for me. And when you look back at 5 years ago, even though we're Indians, even Indian brands didn't have shades that were suitable across all skin tones,
Wow.
they still sometimes struggle with that. It's just starting to come on because I think social media should be credited for that. We've been all given that platform to talk about things that make us happy and upset us both, right?
Yes.
So I have been working on it very silently for about 4 years before I launched it in October 2021. And we're a little over a year old. I have about 68 SKUs out, unique
Wow.
SKUs out. Our categories range from lipsticks, blushes, highlighters, fragrances, tools, to one of our, I think, best-selling products has been our Verified IRL Paris Filter Airbrush Powder,
Wow.
which we sold out a couple of times over in under 2-3 hours.
No way.
So it's essentially this blurring, powder that mattifies your face and doesn't mattify it in a way that it looks like you have product on it. It gives you the most smooth filter like image, which is why the name IRL Paris filter.
Are you wearing it now?
I'm always wearing it.
Look, because your skin is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Wow. And is it where is it available?
So we sell on our website, verified.in.
Worldwide?
We are hoping to get worldwide somewhere in the middle of this year, the second half of this year. The amount of licensing and paperwork that goes into the makeup side of things is unbelievable. But we're shipping pan-India as of right now.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I'm so inspired by your journey. I think you've shared so much so openly, and I think that's so rare for people to come on here and share their deepest, darkest moments, and I'm really grateful for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and having these conversations.
My pleasure. Everyone, and thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. Wherever you're listening or watching, if you could please press the follow, like, and subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me.